Okay, everybody, this is Nell Thames with Stamp with Nell, formerly known as Auntie Nellie Stamps. I was not able to go live on Facebook this afternoon. I'm not sure why. Typically, I have my husband David with me. He is my tech guru. Technically, we call him the producer. And he knows how to use the video, but normally I have been able to do it on my own. Just press a button and it goes live, but we have a new camera. I don't know if that's the reason or if there's another reason. But it didn't work for me doing it solo tonight. He's at choir tonight, so I was on my own. I thought I could get it to work, but I could not. So my apologies. This will be a recorded video. We're going to do it as if it's live, so I'm not going to edit anything out. I want you to know how long it takes to make the card. It does not take long at all. This is the card that we're making. I used the Layering Leaves stamp set specifically for this sentiment here. Thank you very much. And I also used the Abundant Beauty Decorative Masks. Now let me show you the masks. First of all, it comes in this cellophane envelope. I don't usually leave them in here, but if I do, I cut the sides so that I can get things in and out of there very easily. And that way you don't have to deal with this tape up here. So there are, I'm sorry, they've clearly been used, and I'm sorry for the glare of the camera. There are 4 sunflower masks, and there are the petals, the leaves, and then the backgrounds, the center background, and the center detail. And they're numbered, number 1 through 4, up here by this notch. If you can, there you go, you might be able to see the notch there. And they're numbered, so you know which one to start with, and that was helpful for me because I didn't. Sometimes it's not clear to me which one I should start with. Then there's also these really beautiful other beautiful masks. This one is leaves. Sorry for the camera or the light. This one is snowflakes. And then this one, lots of people used it for bats during Halloween, which is actually tomorrow. But for Halloween cards, but I think it's probably a houndstooth of some sort. So you could use it more than just at Halloween. We're also going to use the Banners Punch, or Banners Pick-a-Punch, I think it's called, for our banner. That's pretty helpful. And then just a white envelope and only vanilla, very vanilla thick cardstock. So just 3 pieces of cardstock and a little bit of ink and we'll be good to go. Our ink colors are pumpkin pie, balmy blue, crumb cake, and pecan pie. So those, we'll use those in that order. So we'll put them back there. So our card base is cut at 5.5 by 8.5. and scored at 4 1/4. I used my scoreboard to score this, but of course you could use your trimmer as well. So we'll put that off to the side until we actually need it. And I cut this piece also to 5.5 by 4 1/4. I did that because I'm probably going to want to trim it down. I'm going to center this as best I can, but my leaves are always going to go off the edge because it's just not a large enough area to get the leaves on or to get them completely on. I do tape this down to my table, or in this case my paper. We're going to use the pumpkin pie ink and we're going to take a D block or any block, it doesn't matter, and just, that's probably even a little bit too much ink. We're just going to add some ink to the corner and then I'm going to spritz with water because we're going to spritz with water and we're going to draw the I'm going to use the sponge dauber and I'm going to take this water and draw the ink into the water. I think you can see that. Maybe can't see that. All right, and then just stamp off a little bit, kind of like we do when we're using the blending brushes. And by the way, I did do this with blending brushes. It's beautiful. I really wanted to watercolor it for some reason, but because of the intricate detail between the flowers, I had a hard time trying to actually watercolor it with a brush. I did do it with the watercolor pencils, and I definitely liked that. That was very fun. But I found that the ink was the way for me this time around. The ink was the way to go. So the ink with the sponge daubers was the way to go. It's about having control, and I felt like this was one where I wanted to have control. And so I am just picking up a little bit more ink. Not as the water is pretty much all on my sponge dauber. I didn't have that much because we don't want to soak the paper. This is not. It is not the watercolor paper, and it is not the shimmer paper, which does a better job at being wet. So we don't want to get it very wet. We just want to get some ink on there as watercolor. I'm going to put this off to the side so that we don't get any ink anywhere. We're going to come back to that, so I'm not going to clean it off yet. Now, I did tape this down up here, and I do that for two reasons. One is to keep it in place, obviously, but then it helps me when I come in with my second one to keep that in place as well. Whoops, this one's... Okay, so I use my notches over on the left-hand side. It's just the way I find that especially the leaves fit best. And so that is what I'm going to do again. And I'm going to try to use less ink this time and just do a little bit of a corner of Balmy Blue. Yep, corner of Balmy Blue. And the spritzer, wherever that went, there it is. And I'm just going to spritz one time. And I'm going to pull out, my daubers are labeled because I try to use them only with the same color ink. This one's going to be a little light, I think, and that's perfectly fine. This one's going to be a little more watery. Yep. All right. I even can use the tester ink over here. And if I want more blue, more color, I'll just pick it up from the edges over here. All right, that was probably a little wetter than I want. If you see the paper, you can see that it's just a little wet. So we're going to put this over here. Now get the next one. The next one is the center pieces, the back center pieces. It's not the detail. So, and that is going to be in crumb cake. Here is my crumb cake. Here is my. All right, we'll just turn this. We'll spritz it a little. One spritz of water is plenty. We're not doing such a large area that we need a bunch of water. Just enough to say that it's watercolored, right? Okay, pick this up, and again, we're gonna use this over here. Get off a little bit of liquid. Whoops, fell right off my finger. I lost control. And just lightly, I mean, we're not, this is a background. It's not a, we're gonna want the pecan pie to be the detail on top of this. So there we go. That's the background center, or the center background. And we'll close this. And then bring out the pecan pie. I don't know about you, but I'm in Northeast Texas, and I was raised in the Chicago area where, we are used to cold, but boy, I've been here 4 years, and today it was in the 40s in the morning and rainy and wet, and it was cold. It's been, this year particularly has been just a real adjustment from hot to cold because it was so hot over the summer. Okay, so my pecan pie spritzer, I'm just gonna dab that in there and bring this out here. There we go. That's more what I wanted. And we'll play with this right here. And now we're gonna dab. We're gonna darken all of these detailed areas. And I'm going to try and get in those little holes. I'm not concerned about getting them all, but I want some of them to show. Of course, the littler ones are a little harder to get into. So there we go. And they're just beautiful, aren't they? I just love how beautiful they are. So this is beautiful. I wanted some texture. So I decided that I was going to use the an embossing folder. I love embossing folders. I probably buy every embossing folder that Stampin' Up! Makes. Well, recently at least. Now it's okay to, in fact, some people spritz their cardstock with water when they dry it, when they emboss. It helps the paper, the fibers of the paper be a little bit more pliant. Now, if you've used a Stampin' Up! Embossing folder before, you know that there is a line here to help you line up. Even though this doesn't need to be lined up, this is kind of, it's a random-ish pattern. It's a cross here. Cross hatch. It's random enough. It doesn't have to be so straight, but because the line is there, I'm going to use it anyway. And I'm going to I'm going to take this over to my embossing machine and do it over there so that we don't shake the table. So hopefully you can still hear me. Because this is a 3D, I'm going to assume you can't hear me. I'll come back and say that. I'm still here. I'm coming back. Okay, so this is a 3D embossing folder, and so you're going to use plate number 1, which is the main bottom plate of the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and then plate number 4, which is the top. It's gray, and it's for the top of the. It's for specifically for those 3D ones. So now, instead of, we're not going to move on to put the top of the card on yet. This time, normally I would put the whole outside of the card together before I went to the inside. But because I'm going to need some more ink, we're going to just stick around with this. We're going to just do the inside now. Okay, so the same idea. I'm going to get my my pumpkin pie, which is orange, and grab a little bit more ink. I also have a lot of ink around my leaves, so I can brush that in there and use that excess, so I don't even need much more. When I do the inside of a card, and because the reason that I didn't put an actual layer of a different color in here is because it is light enough that I don't need to do that. Usually the reason you're doing that is you're using a colored card base that doesn't go well with, doesn't go well with writing. So, but because I don't need that, I just am doing my embossing right on the inside of the card. Now I'm going to take this one and we're going to bring back one of these leaves. I don't want more than one. One leaf. So I hope I didn't just do what I thought I did. Yeah, I did. Yep, I sure did. We're gonna hope that we can put that right where it needs to be. There we go. All right. I'm sorry you hear my messenger go off in the background. I'm not sure what that is, but we'll just take care of that later. Good. See, took care of that little. It's not a mistake. It's a creative endeavor, a creative opportunity, right? Okay, and so then we're back now to the crumb cake. So I'll grab my crumb cake again. And the center. And we're going to be very careful and make sure we get the right ones here, and put them right properly sided up. There we go. Okay. And again, I'm not going to make these too dark, and we're not going to put too much water on this. We don't need much extra water, I don't think. It's up to you if you feel like you need a little extra water there, but I don't think I do. So I think my sponge dauber is wet enough, and I can see my pecan pie still actually has water on it. I'm going to get rid of these, get these out of your sight so you don't need to look at my dirty blocks. All right, and then pecan pie for the center details. And I think we're doing it this way. Yep, okay. I'm going to grab some of this, and we're going to center detail. Whoops, I'm sorry. I just realized I have probably been shaking the camera like crazy, so I apologize for that. I will try to not. I'm almost done with the stamping anyway, so I'll try to not. You know what? I believe this one did not get. This could use a little extra detail over here, so we'll just All right. There we go. Okay. So to avoid laying this back in ink, just because this might have gotten a little wet, I'm going to put this piece of paper here. All right. I'm going to put this off to the side. I'm sorry, that was my trimmer. Ooh. Put that off to the side, and I'm going to use I'm going to take my watercolored piece, and now we're going to trim it down. This was 5.5 by 4.25, so the full size. And now we're going to just trim it down. We're going to take off the areas that just about 1/8 of an inch is all I'm taking off, because I want a very minimal border around the edges. And you see that I'm going to get a part of a leaf off either way. So I'm just going to turn this way, and there we go. So now that is just 1/8 of an inch smaller in both directions. So it's going to be quite a small margin. So yeah, there we go. All right. Now I am of the camp. This is a recent learn for me, that cutting your dimensionals in half is fun. I like cutting my dimensionals in half, and it gives me twice the number of dimensionals to use. So if you use a lot of dimensionals, which I do, then I can use them without feeling like I'm really spending, half my paycheck on dimensionals. I did a party this weekend, and I had some young girls at the party, and they were asking how many dimensionals do I put on? And I said, well, you put on 9 because you want to make sure that you have enough support all the way around. They just thought 9 was a great number. It was, they found that quite fun. I do not have any nails, so I use my Take Your Pick tool to, there we go, see? I like to use my Take Your Pick tool to take off the paper off of the dimensionals. I've seen that people who color the dimensionals with highlighters. I think it's a great idea, just so that you know that you are, you've taken all your tops off. So I think it's a great idea. All right. See, now it is layered. So now we're going to do the sentiment. We're going to use the banner punch, and we're going to just start by punching the left edge. I think it's Banner's Pick-a-Punch. This is 1 inch wide. This strip is 1 inch wide. The punch goes from 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. And so I chose 1 inch because my sentiment is about that big. Just make sure that I'm lined up, and then I just punch. Now I'm going to save this. I don't know where I learned this. I watch, perhaps just like you, I watch a lot of YouTube videos of stampers, and one stamper somewhere along the line said in her video that she saves this piece, and I'll show you why in just a second. We're going to use Balmy Blue to stamp the sentiments, and I did slide my mat underneath because this is photopolymer. So, and I'm just going to hopefully get this on straight the first time. It's looking straight, looking straight. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to take this little piece and put it over on this side. And what that is going to help us do is figure out how much of the extra we should cut off so that the right side matches the left side. And I'm just going to put a little line here, and that's where I'm going to trim. And then we can get rid of this piece, and we'll be closing this up. We're not quite done with the Ink, we'll come back to it in a couple of minutes. Okay. So there. So now we're going to trim this off, and when we punch it, it will be similar to. I mean, I didn't measure, so I just did it by eye. There we go. But it will be close enough that better than when I try to do that part of it by eye. I always end up with cutting it several times or cutting it once and restamping because I cut it too close. So I really like this idea of just a general idea of where the best place to cut it is, to cut the banner is. And of course you can cut that banner by hand. I just happen to like the punch. I'm also, in addition to being an embossing folder fan, I am a big punch fan. I like punches almost better than dies, although I prefer dies to fussy cutting for sure. I'm not a fussy cutter. That is something I'm not fond of. Although I do some fussy cutting every time I think they call it practice fussy cutting every time I make a card, because I put paper on my envelope flap. All right, so I'm just going to put this here. You could add some ribbon underneath if you wish, but I did not. I was trying to keep it very simple. So we're going to use this lovely, these are lovely, the adhesive back glitter dots. Yeah, glitter sequins. And again, I cut this cellophane envelope on the side so I can just slide it in and out. These dots are Old Olive White and Balmy Blue, so they're perfect for this card because these are flat, which I love. I love they're flat. Excuse me. So they don't add any bulk, and I've already used 2 sets of dimensionals. I don't believe this card will easily mail for a first class stamp if I choose to use first class. But these sequins will not add any dimension, but they do add some great glitter, don't they? They're so pretty. I love these. I also love that they match my ink. Again, Stampin' Up superpower, right, is that they're so color coordinated. The designer series paper, the cardstock, the ink, the embellishments, the ribbon, all of it. You can make it all match. All right. So that is that. That is, in fact, the card. We're done with this. And now I will not stamp another sentiment in here because I will use this as a thank you card. And often when I write a thank you card, I have more to say than, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I have more to say than when maybe when I'm writing some other cards. It's hard to write for me. It's hard to write a sympathy card. So I would probably stamp for a sympathy card inside. But for a thank you card, I want some extra room. So now we're going to look at the envelope. So I have my ink back here. I don't have any DSP to work with for this. So I'm going to do something that I learned not too long ago. I'm going to use the light balmy blue. There we go. The light balmy blue. Stampin' Blends. And I'm going to fold my envelope flap over, and I'm just going to go back and forth randomly. If you don't like randomly, do it however you like it. And then I'm going to take the pumpkin pie. Now remember that I had a crosshatch on my actual card too, so I'm going to kind of crosshatch this. And that is definitely random. It's probably maybe even a little more random than I like. But it decorates my envelope flap. And I didn't have to use DSP that I didn't use in my card. So, and we can look at this again this way. I kind of like it. Actually, I might have used the lighter one on this. I'm going to take just one more. There we go. All right. So there's that. I learned that from Maker's Mojo. If you know anything about Maker's Mojo, you probably want to attend it because it is fantastic. They just had an event in October. It's a group of demonstrators that put it on. It's fabulous. All right, so I have in my stamp case, I keep the window sheets. And so I'm going to, and I think that Jamie B does this as well. In fact, I know she does because she's the one who I learned it from. And I'm going to put that in here because I'm working with water. I'm going to put that in here. We're going to do just a little bit more with the water, but we're not going to even do, we're just going to do a leaf. Well, no, I'm sorry. I have the, do just this little edge here, all right, with the pumpkin pie. A little bit. Jesse, stop. Sorry, the dog apparently thinks it's time to go out. He's probably right. Okay, and then I'm going to bring this in just a little bit of it. I don't know if you can see that this is curling right here, and that's what I want. I want that curl around my, oh my gosh, I did it again. Did I put it upside? I did it again. Lord. For me, I'm probably going to end up marking these again. Marking the top so that I make sure I keep my ink. So you know what we're going to do with that then. We're going to put another leaf here. I'm sorry, I know I'm shaking I believe I'm shaking again. It's all right, Boo. Good boy. Okay. And then the little center. Okay, the little center. There we go. And the pumpkin pie. I'm sorry. I got really into what I was doing. I forgot to talk. So, just, you know, I'm not used to talking when I craft. I don't usually talk to myself. Sometimes I do. More often than not, I'm talking to the dogs, but because, you know, we have guests, meaning you're here, I'm trying not to talk to the dog. All right. So this is it. This is our card. And if you know anything about me, you know that my husband and I currently live in Texas. I am actually a native Texan. I know I don't sound like that. That would be because I was born in, I was raised in Chicago. So I definitely am more northern than southern in terms of speech patterns. But I have this little Texas stamp that I put on the back of all of my cards. All right, then. And that's my personal stamp. That is not a Stampin' Up. I got that because I'm live in Texas now. So anyway, thank you for joining me. I'm sorry that my live didn't work. I hope that you enjoyed the card anyway. If you have any questions, please let me know. If you are interested in seeing the written instructions, they'll be up tomorrow. The blog is live. There are some, I did some things different today, specifically the envelope I did differently today. But in general, the techniques are the same. So I do want to show you one other thing before I let you go. We talked about the difference in the watercolor. This is the watercolor pencils. And you'll see that it's a little bit more smudgy, and I wanted a little bit more control. And I felt like I lost some lines. I still think it's a beautiful card. I'm absolutely still going to use it, but in terms of technique, I like the sponging. Just for control, I like the sponging. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Again, my name is Nell Thames. I am Stamp with Nell, formerly Auntie Nellie Stamps. And I thank you for spending some time with me. Again, I'm sorry that the Facebook Live didn't work tonight. I'll have to see if David can set me up the right way next time before he leaves. And I hope that you'll take a chance and take some time and go over and read my blog at Auntie Nellie Stamps. There's a bunch of cards there. There will be more cards this week. I have a bunch in the wings waiting for some videos. So maybe I'll do that while David's gone today. I'll just do some more videos. Thank you so much. This is Auntie Nellie stamping off.